Awesome. So thank you guys for joining me today. The recent numbers just came out, and I did want to definitely talk about who are these independent third-party voters, because right now in Arizona, that is the fastest growing lane, and we're seeing about a third of people registered are currently in that independent bucket. So we currently have with us Ms. Drew. She is the chairman for the state party. She lives in Pima, which I'm super excited to talk to you down there in Pima. We also have Eric, who is the chair of Maricopa, and we have Mr. Nathan, who is definitely a friend of State 48, and he is Surprise School Board, Nathan, right?
Buckeye, Buckeye
Buck
Union.
Buckeye
Yeah.
Union School Board. And he is currently an elected official. So being a third party, definitely some valuable information there. Let's start big picture and then let's narrow it down to the LP in general. So, Miss Drew, you're probably more, I mean, even though you're in the LP, are you still considered these in the bucket of the third party, the one third, or are you guys kind of separate?
I see ourselves as separate because I was in that independent bucket for 25 years. Even though I would identify myself as a constitutional libertarian, I was registered as an independent, no party declared. It wasn't until 2019, due to some of my activism, that I thought, if I'm going to affect the political process, I need to actually be a member of a party. And I've been calling myself a libertarian for so long. Um, I decided to sign the dotted line and became a libertarian.
Okay, so let's talk.
So I do not see them as the same.
Okay, so they're not the same. Okay, so let's talk about this third of Arizona that's in this bucket as being the true independents. Who are these people? Are they? Because I'm being told mostly by Republicans that they're actually either McCain Republicans or they're definitely conservative. Um, what do you think? Let's go Drew first, and let's go to Nathan, who's kind of shaking
Okay,
his head.
well, the answer is going to differ depending on who you ask and speak with. Yeah, of course, you're probably speaking to Republicans who are disaffected McCainites, and they're like, yeah, they're answering that question. I hear more often that the people who are independent, because I fell into that bucket, I was definitely not for McCain. So we can't go there. And I had a Republican upbringing, so you would think, oh, I would lean that way. No, I think the majority of independents are those who are just dissatisfied, disaffected with government in general, and are pretty fed up with it. And so they've washed their hands of the entire process. That's my take on it.
Nathan, what do you say? And are these people active in voting? How do we get them to the polls if they're not active?
Well, what I can say is most of the libertarian support does come from the independent bloc, and it's not as surprising as some may think. Again, the general distaste for the process, the protest vote, that kind of thing. The Libertarian Party has always been kind of the catch-all for those types of people. But what I would say is you have really two different types of independents. The ones that are registered to vote and all they do is vote. And then you have the independents who are just they've fallen out of party politics, right? They're just so fed up with internal party fighting. Whether some libertarians have gone that way, but I've seen a lot of Republicans do that. I've seen Democrats do that. I've seen Greens do that. So I would say it kind of falls into those categories, but it depends on which side you're talking about. The ones that definitely the ones that came out of that party politics, those are the ones you're definitely going to get, like you're talking about, the ones that say, oh, well, we used to be McCainites. Well, we're not in power in the Republican Party anymore, so screw everybody. And that's sort of the mentality that I see.
Okay, so
Can I
Eric,
push
yeah,
back on that just a little bit before
sure.
Eric answers? And the one thing that libertarians love to do is disagree. So, so I might say that libertarians were part of a catch-all bucket, except I disagree with that because hear far too often that people don't even know what a libertarian is. Like they don't even know that the party exists. And that is, again, part of the problem with just the Libertarian Party in general about getting their messaging out. And that's one of the things that I personally tried to change in my county, which I'm now new at the state level, and I'm hoping to make that effective change too. But the reality is I hear far too many people when I tell them and I introduce myself as a libertarian that they didn't even know the Libertarian Party existed. So
Okay.
I don't see that we're a catch-all.
And full disclosure, just so we can talk from a place of understanding, I was briefly in the Libertarian Party. So I am fully familiar with who you guys are, your politics, and how much you love to fight. Eric, so Pima County might have a different experience, but in Maricopa, how do you even reach independence? I mean, where do you go? Because if you're a Republican, then you go to the LDs or you go to the Republican meetings. Where do you even find these independent voters at to even reach them if you're a candidate?
Well, we started going to different events where we can find common issues. Like earlier this year, we were at the Second Amendment rally at the state capitol. And so we had a lot of conversations with a lot of Republicans that were Second Amendment enthusiasts. So it's mostly meeting the voters where they are, where we have a crossover issue, where we can go and try and show them that there is a actual place for them instead of just being a independent. Um, I think the other part on why some people end up being independent as well is that the primary system kind of tempts them into being independent if they do want to cast their vote in a particular Republican or Democrat primary. And so I know we've definitely seen some people they will vote Libertarian by the end of it, but they really like to play in that insider primary thing. So we kind of uh, we lose out on some of those voters in our numbers just because of that as well.
Can you
Um,
explain how the primary works if your party not defined? How does the primary work?
uh, I mean, I'm not a super scholar on this. Nathan might want
Anybody
to
else want
go on
to grab this
this,
one?
I can
but
answer that.
Okay, go ahead, Drew.
I can answer that because that was the position that I was. I was an independent who was going to the polls, pulling a ballot to vote for Republicans in this case for my primary and the local primary. You can do that except for in presidential elections. And I was really kind of surprised when I came into the Libertarian Party that, and I had a platform and was kind of speaking more in the public and had an opportunity to be in Republican circles, in Democrat circles. And I was kind of shocked to find that the majority of very few independents know that they have that opportunity to vote in a primary. So I was just like letting people know, hey, you don't like what's going on, you can pull that ballot in the primary and vote. So
Okay, so Nathan, let me get this clear, just to be crystal clear. If your party not defined, you go on primary day and you can either pick a Republican or independent or whatever ballot you want or Democrat, right? During the primary. Is that
So
correct?
it depends on who's running at the time. And then it also depends because the Libertarian Party won a case in the Ninth Circuit where our party alone can abstain from the open primary. So if we choose to close our primary, it's closed, and the Secretary of State actually reaches out to us every election for that. But for the Republican and Democrats, they are forced on an open primary. Yes,
Okay, except for president is different.
presidential is different, and that's because it's solely a federal election, nothing to
Okay.
do with the state.
Okay, so for federal, you have to either be a registered Republican if you want to vote for the Republican in the primary, right?
So
and vice versa.
And
it's
vice
kind of
versa.
weird because it's not just federal. Because like you think of Senate or representative as federal as well, but president is purely federal in the sense that it has no connection to the state.
Okay. Got it. Got it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the LP, unless anybody else has something they want to say about these party not defined people. Well, let me ask you guys this. When you guys do go door knock, do you, of course, hit libertarians. Do you also tread into the PNDs? Do you, when you're going door knocking? And what's your, Nathan, what's your approach? You're our elected official here. What's your approach when you go to their door?
Well, so I will say this. Libertarians, one of our core values is we want to be left alone, which doesn't help with door knocking. So that's why I say a lot of the support does come from independents, including the signatures and that sort of thing. And honestly, speak from common sense, speak from core values, and usually you'll reach right in, with these people because that's what they believe in. It's the average person is fairly reasonable and rational, and they just want a simple life.
Okay.
And so I think, being a libertarian candidate, I've represented that as best as I could.
Eric, when you reach out to independent voters down there in Maricopa, let's say you're going to Tempe, do you change your message? Do you lean on the things that are libertarian that might be a little more to the left? Or is your message and you're pretty consistent?
Well, I think it depends on the issue that we're talking about at the time. Because you can frame a particular principle differently if you're coming from the left or the right. Um, so it definitely depends on the situation. Um, I know when I was talking with Tempe City Council, I definitely framed a little bit of the argument a little different for them. The first time versus the second was a little bit different. The second time was like a economic argument versus the first time was really this is the business license thing. But the very first time I was trying to hit him with a left approach on privacy and wanting, the harm that it would present to the very smallest of people, since leftists tend to care about um, the poor, those without money, or
Hmm.
the small and the vulnerable. That messaging didn't seem to work with them, but I did at least try slightly on a leftist approach, and then the the second argument was economic, which I think is both sides to it. But yeah,
In
there's
in
ways.
in Maricopa County, and I don't know if you know this, but in Maricopa County, do you have a healthy amount of maybe, and I know this is taboo to say, but I'm going to say it anyways, of left-leaning libertarians? Like, do you have like a lot of libertarians in, say, Tempe or more, you know, Democratic areas, or are you still seeing more of the right-leaning libertarians?
So I'll just do this based off of geography.
Mhm.
Um, so if I pulled up the heat map of our registered voters, um, the majority are there's kind of a couple pockets, mostly Chandler, Mesa, Gilbert in that area. Probably not as dense of a heat map in Tempe. Lots of Scottsdale, northern Phoenix, and some on the west side. And we have a surprisingly high concentration at the Air Force Base.
Yep.
We'll come back to that.
Lots lots of military.
Let's come back to that in 1 second. Drew, you're in Pima. Are there conservative areas in Pima? Like, where are you seeing your heat map? Like, where does the numbers light up for libertarians? Like, I just think of Pima County and I think of just all liberals.
Well, you wouldn't be necessarily wrong, but we definitely do have many pockets of conservatives, mostly Republican voters. So, it's interesting that you kind of talk about it that way because in my county, my and when I came in, I really didn't have an active county, so I had to like build. And so as I started sharing this libertarian message, which is like, make freedom your single issue, liberty is kind, don't tread on anyone. And I really made that the focus. My board, the people who ended up coming to be attracted to that message were Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green.
Mm,
Literally, my board like kind of became that. And that's because to me, ultimately, it's about the messaging. And, because everybody, in my opinion, they're libertarian in this way. They don't want the government to tell them how to live. They don't want them in their lives or their bedrooms or things like that. The problem with, and I hear that from my right and left friends. They both say the same thing to me. So why aren't they libertarians? The reality is because they believe in those things, except when it comes to someone else. They don't want the government telling them how to live their lives, but they do want the government to tell those people how to live their lives. So the heat map for Tucson, Pima County, yes, it is definitely blue. Though, especially those who are in elected positions. But there are definitely pockets. But I think the most important thing is the messaging that don't tread on anyone, and really liberty is kind.
nice. So let's talk about the Libertarian Party in general. So this is not a gotcha question. I really have not been paying attention.
I've been
Are you
waiting. I want one. Come on, Christy, give
are
me a
you
gotcha
are you
question.
guys still part of the National Libertarian, or did you guys separate?
No, we're still part of the National Libertarian.
Okay, okay. I know there was a movement where it was getting crazy and people were kind of pulling out. So I didn't know if you guys were still.
I don't know that anyone ever actually pulled out, but there were some states who had chosen not to support our national candidate for
Okay,
president. So that happened, but to my knowledge, no one was disaffiliated or
okay,
even disaffiliated themselves. Um,
okay. And who is your chair now that Angela stepped down?
Stephen
So,
Michaela,
yeah, Stephen.
Okay. And is he in the Mises caucus or no?
So
I don't know.
Maybe.
I can answer that. The former Mises Caucus more or less kind of dissolved itself after quite a few splits. Stephen Nikela used to be part of it. Now he's sort of in, sort of out, if that makes sense. In fact, the Mises Caucus got taken back over by Angela as the new chair. So I think her and him are kind of on the outs. So
Okay. I was just curious. For people that are tuning in and that don't know anything about what a libertarian is, what it does, I don't want them to get the impression that they're left leaning or right leaning. That's just my simplistic way of explaining it. It's
Sure.
it's wrong, y'all. It's wrong. But who wants to just answer that question for the newbie who doesn't really know what libertarian is and explain it to them? I know you did a little bit, Drew. What, Nathan? Why don't you go for it?
I'm going to let either of my chairs choose
Okay.
this one. They're in charge of the messaging.
Eric, you want to fill this one?
Well, I mean, I have the right shirt for it. So this is our
Okay.
shirt when we're out and about, and I actually
Perfect.
have a QR code
Ah,
for you to
nice.
go to, which is the which directs people to a page to tell them all about what the Libertarian Party is. Um, and I can start with just the first sentence from that actual website. Um, a libertarianism is built on the simple idea, individual liberty. This means you should have the freedom to make your own choices about your life, work, relationships, and money as long as they're not harming anybody else. That's kind of where we get to it is like as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you should be able to do what you want without having to ask anybody permission.
Okay. So I'm a walkaway. So I was a Democrat. Or actually, let me reframe that. I registered Democrats because that's what my parents were, right? So my whole life I've been conservative. I just was checking that blue box, not even really knowing why, right? So when I finally woke up and I decided to walk away, and I'm actually not liberal like at all. Um, I didn't really feel good about the Republican Party because, all the stuff that we've been told about it. And when I read the old Libertarian platform, I was like, these are my people, right? That's what I felt when I read the platform. So for anybody wondering what it is, even though they have changed the platform, but I suggest you read it. Now, ultimately, I'm way, 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 way to the right of you guys. I'm pretty conservative. And there were just certain things, fundamentally that I don't believe in, but I still consider myself a liberty, Republican, right? If that's not an oxymoron, I know it may be. The other reason that I decided that I wasn't a libertarian was because I felt like I couldn't get elected, and I knew that I wanted to run for office. And I felt like the party doesn't help libertarians. Well, I got into the Republican Party, and nobody helps anybody. So, but Nathan, how did you get elected as a libertarian? And was it difficult?
Well, so let me start from the beginning, right? That's a good place to start. Before I was elected, I was appointed to my one of the small boards in my city council, which was the library board for the city of Bucka. And so, having gotten some political experience on a small board, I more or less made connections and started to understand the process more. So then I ran for school board, and much the same thing happened where throughout that election, you meet people, you door knock, you gather support, right? And it was a very interesting experience. Met a lot of people, met pillars of the community, which is a huge part of this whole process. If you're running for a specific district, you have to know who the people are in that district, right? And not just the small players, but also the big players. And that was more or less how I got in with, uh, I guess you could call it the power base in Buckeye. Um, so through some of their support, I was able to really like amplify my message, and then I got in that way. Uh, yeah.
Okay, so definitely starting small, building that consensus, and working your way up. Now, Drew, there are a lot of people who, first time out the bat, they'll run for president or they'll run for, the Senate. Um, why are we doing that?
Well, for libertarians specifically, and it depends on the person, but if you're wanting to know from a just general party strategy, the reason why people do that is for the messaging. We simply need the platform in order to get our message out there. When I attempted to run for governor, what did that do? Yes, I didn't make that position. However, I was on the radio several times. I met a lot of friends that I'm still friends with today in the Republican Party, and the Democrat Party. So building those relationships in a community like Nathan did, yes, I didn't get necessarily that position, but it forces people to hear a third option. And I do think that that is a valuable thing.
Okay. And I didn't know that you ran for governor, so this
Okay.
that wasn't it wasn't
It was an
personal.
attempt and it's a big, long story, so that's okay.
Okay. Now,
I wasn't on the ballot.
what do you guys say that you guys are spoilers and that if you see, X might win or you're going to take votes from somebody, you should drop out? Who wants to fill that? Okay.
That's an easy one. Uh, we don't owe you your vote.
Yes.
You have to earn it.
Yeah, that's a huge part. Also, the majority of our supporters, again, come from the independent bloc, and they otherwise would not have voted.
Right.
We are the party of did not vote as voters, right? So that's why people, given that third option, it's such an important thing.
Okay. Now, I could be wrong, but I've always thought that libertarians most likely pull from Republicans and the Green Party pulls from Democrats. Is that the simplistic way that they look at it to get you guys to get out. Is that not true?
It's a
It's
nice
not true.
narrative.
Yeah, it's as with anything in politics, narrative is the driver, but the reality is it's not that.
Right. And you can't spoil something that's already rotten. And it's interesting,
Mhm.
depending on the audience that I'm with. If I'm with a Republican audience or a Democrat audience, I hear the same thing. I hear like how much we're alike because of those crossover issues. And the reality is that Republicans and Democrats have far more in common with each other than we do with them, because we take the position that society is greater than government. And many of these issues that plague these parties and cause them so much animosity really doesn't belong in the hands of government in the first place. And I can say that speaking from, a conservative Christian perspective. And right here, I'm going to get myself into trouble because yes, not all or even very many libertarians are Christians, but the reason why I'm comfortable in this position is because I can live my beliefs and values without pushing them onto someone else, and also without someone else pushing those onto me. So, Chrissy, I'd really, if you come from a very conservative angle, I'd love for you to read my piece on abortion, because I was told steer clear of that issue, don't talk about it. And I'm like, no, that's not what we should do as libertarians. We should address these issues. And so I'd invite you to read my position on abortion.
I would love to because I think that was one of the things that was taken out of that. So I would love to read that.
And I have,
Now,
yeah.
what would you now I could name several elected Arizona officials that are libertarians, but they are just hiding out in the Republican Party. I won't name them. I'm not going to out y'all, but we see you. What would you guys say to them?
I mean,
I
okay,
I would.
so it depends, right?
Okay.
Don't forget your roots is a huge thing, because sometimes pragmatism overrides common sense, and having as the second vice chairman of the Arizona Libertarian Party, I have to work with people down at the legislature, and so I saw a lot of firsthand um, compromising from those who cannot be named at this time.
Now, don't you think at some point, I mean, let's talk about what the overarching goals of the Libertarian Party is, right? You guys are, I guess, the biggest, are you guys still the biggest third party?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. If Elon starts a party, like for a while there, I thought Andrew Yang, I thought he was going to catch fire, and he came out strong and then it just fizzled. But if Elon starts a party, he could possibly overtake you guys. I mean, the goal is to move you guys from where you are now to, having more numbers. So if they keep hiding out in the Republican Party, doesn't that
So
defeat the purpose?
yeah, to that question, what I was answering and applauding was just the general idea that if somebody is in office and they are a true libertarian, such as Thomas Massey in Kentucky, okay, the amount of good that they can do is so wonderful, okay? But to say that if somebody's hiding out, but I hear Christy all the time, people say, well, I'm really libertarian, whisper, whisper, but really I see them compromising their principles all the time. So they're not really libertarian. Um,
Let's not name the local people.
we don't have to. That's okay. But I wanted to, I wasn't in disagreement with Nathan. If anything, we are in agreement. I was just answering on more of a broad scale, and Nathan a more specific one.
Okay. So how, if they keep hiding out, let's go back to that, or just in general, what's the plan for growing the party? Because I guess that would be the number one knock is at first it was you guys were doing too much fighting, there was too much infighting, there was too many, like, how are you guys going to grow? Do you need to grow?
Yes.
Yes.
Or,
Yes, we need to grow.
or is that the big elephant in the room that if you had an answer, you'd be rich?
Maybe frame that or ask that question again. I'm sorry.
How are you guys going to grow the Libertarian Party to being a more viable party? To be in a party where people are like, yes, I'll be libertarian because I can get elected and I'll have ballot access and go ahead, Nathan.
Go ahead, Nathan.
All right. So first off, getting elected to small offices that either have no competition or low competition. In terms of viability, showing the public that you can get elected means that you can get elected again. And that's just, unfortunately, as was said before, the narrative is, well, you can't elect a libertarian. They never get elected. I'm living proof that that's incorrect. And so I think that there are a lot of smaller positions that really don't get looked at. There's a lot of school board races that have no competition, not even enough candidates to have an election, which is something that really shocked me once I started looking more into the other districts around me. And so it just that's a very low hanging fruit that we need people willing to run on these local levels to build that stable base of the elected libertarian so that we can change that narrative.
Okay. Now, I will say when I did resign for being a libertarian and I got calls. I got, I think I still maybe get a postcard every now and then, right? So you guys do a great job. I mean, I feel like if I dropped off the rolls of the Republican Party, I don't think anybody would chase me, right? But I feel like you guys do a good job of outreach. So I will give you guys that for sure. Um, I guess another question I had is, let's see, we talked about going small. I think that's great. Hmm. Let's see, Nathan. We talked about school boards a little bit. State
Mhm.
48 mainly covers the dysfunctional school boards. Tell me a little bit about the makeup of your school board and why you guys run so effectively.
Well, it's strange coming from a libertarian, but we don't fight a whole lot. Um, there's quite a bit of a base understanding of admin that uh, the board oversees admin. Admin can't run wild, and especially on finances, I've got my eye on our CFO, and so that's why you can't. They like the district itself can't just spend wildly. And then from that understanding, and then the further like other programs that we do, and the mentality is all the way down. Accountability, transparency, and rule by consensus is really the three things that that board has a focus on.
What's the makeup of the board? Just roundabout. I mean, you're the libertarian. Is it mostly to the right? Is it to the left? I mean, I know it's nonpartisan, but what's the makeup
Yeah.
generally?
Well, so there's one more moderate guy, and then two center right conservatives, and then one libertarian without the party title.
Okay, so it's a good mix. So maybe, yeah, maybe you guys have something going there.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the numbers that came out because what came out in the numbers is Democrats are down 18,500. So they're really hemorrhaging voters. But Republicans are down 5,000. What's peculiar to me is Hobbs is up. I mean, Hobbs has so much money and she's still not losing money. And most people would probably say, I mean, it's been scandal after scandal. She's not doing a great job. So you guys being the more objective, libertarians, who wants to talk about the numbers and what are we going to see in 2026? Like, who's going to show, are independents going to be rushing to the polls and are they going to go far right or are they going to stick with what they know? What do you guys think? And who's in more trouble? I mean, the Democrats or the Republicans? I know you guys want everybody to become libertarian anyways, but what do you guys think?
I feel like I've been occupying a lot of the talking, so I was hoping maybe you
Eric,
had
what do you
like
think?
to.
Well, I don't think the Democrats' platform is serving them very well. They have a lot of very fringe issues that they've forced on everybody for the last 4 to 8 years. I don't think anybody's going to be forgetting that anytime soon. Um, the the thing that we can offer is some more normalcy to regular American life in general, that isn't on either one of the fringes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think maybe this is a tinfoil hat opinion, but uh, I think we've seen pretty well enough the amount of money that flows into NGO organizations that then end up going into the pockets of well-connected individuals that support certain political parties. So you talked about money continuing to flow. So I think until the political parties have gotten off the teat of taxpayer money, um, things probably aren't going to change too much. So hopefully those liberty Republicans that are hiding their libertarian leanings, you know, finally take on some aspect of that financial um, malfeasance that's been going on for a very long time. To let's just see where the chips fall. Like, let's have everybody raise their own money, not have it come from NGOs funneled through, you know, 10 different organizations. Um, and let's see. Let's see who has the better ideas. And hopefully we'll have the right set of candidates available, at least on the lower levels, to give somebody an opportunity to pick a libertarian instead of the Democrat that's been occupying their district for the last, however many cycles.
Okay.
Same with some of the Republicans I've seen up there.
Sure.
The uh, one half of District 3 comes to mind.
So if we talk about ballot access, tell me about Drew, the libertarians here in Arizona. Have they, tell me what it takes to even get ballot access as a third party. I've heard it's difficult. Do you guys have ballot access in all the races?
We have ballot access across the state, but not in all of the counties. And the question would probably be better answered by Nathan. He has his finger on the pulse of that a little bit better. But no, we do generally have ballot access, and here in Pima County, we do as well. But I know that counties such as Yuma and others are struggling to.
Why do they make it so unfair I mean, why do they make it so unfair, Nathan, for third parties to get ballot access?
Hey, don't ask me. They're doing it to me. So no,
So
to kind of break down that point. I mean, well, let me ask you your first question first. Yes, we have ballot access across statewide. Now, ballot access was changed. The naming of it, or really the meaning of it, was changed back in I think it was 2012 or 2014, when it used to be a certain percentage of your own party had to support you to get into the primaries. Well, now it's a certain percentage of the total electorate in a jurisdiction.
Oh, wow.
So even though the Libertarian Party can close its primary, doesn't mean that it's not affected by the rest of everything else. So yeah, that's the whole thing. But then also, every county has its own ballot access requirements, and then every city and town that has a partisan election for its city council or mayor has its own ballot access requirement, which is, yeah. And Arizona is unique, and no other state has this system.
Hmm.
Now, why do they do it? Because the message of liberty resonates with so many people that they have to suppress us.
yes.
And is that
Because
the legislature that makes those rules for ballot access?
yes, so it's the state legislature. Everything is governed by Title 16 in the Arizona Revised Statutes.
I think there's a very clear narrative that's not just in the state of Arizona, but throughout the United States, that if we keep the people fighting each other, then they don't fight the government, because that's really what ultimately libertarians are fighting, is the omnipotent state. Our message is stop fighting with your neighbor. Let's together exert our power, reclaim our sovereignty. And that is a narrative that is dangerous to the establishment. And that's why that narrative is going to be and has historically been suppressed. And I can give you very, very specific examples of how that has happened here in Arizona.
Yes.
Okay, so as far as, and I did not check libertarian numbers, but when the party is, the parties are bleeding voters. How do you guys capture, hopefully from the Democrats, not from the Republicans, but how do you guys capture some of those that are leaving the Democratic Party? How does the Libertarians try to capture some of those disaffected, 18,000 people that are done with the Democrats? Because we just see their numbers are just going in the tank every time I look at them. How does the Libertarian Party get some of those
So
voters?
Leonard Reed is my favorite economist, or one of my favorite economists. And he said, it's not a numbers problem. It's not a selling problem. It's a learning problem. And unfortunately, everyone frames it around, it's a numbers problem. Like, that's all I hear. It's math, just do the votes. How many people are this? Um, it's really about changing hearts and minds and so it's messaging, not marketing. It's genuine belief versus tactic. And I think that's how we regain that, honestly, because there's no more faith really in many of our electoral or elections. Thankfully we got Nathan in there. I think the smaller you go, the more likely that you are to be able to enter there. And so we need to flood that, and for that to happen. But even in my particular county, the city council and the board of supervisors, they're captured. Like, we've literally seen elections stolen, and there have been no repercussions, literally just a slap on the wrist. This has been many years now. I think it's going back like 20 years now, where Republican Party, Democrat Party, and the Libertarian Party sued Pima County Administrator Chuck Huckleberry for stealing an election. And it was proven that he'd stole that election. As it turned out, Republicans and Democrat parties both pulled out, because it was sort of like, hey, you guys got your deal, you got your money, you got your votes. Why are you fighting? So it was the Libertarian Party alone who really got that to across the finish line for our county. And it was basically dead on arrival, because the corruption is so thick here. So
Mm.
um, why do I say that? I just like, it's very difficult that the narratives are working against us. So it has to be, like I just said, it has to be our messaging that changes hearts and minds. It's not going to be a marketing tactic.
Okay. Eric, what do you think? Because I think if the Democrats run Kamala again, which it looks like she's coming back, that I think it's just going to be a mass exodus. I think people are just going to be so done. So, how do you guys capture some of those Democrats that are just done with the Democratic Party? Like, stop them before they go party not defined and get them into the Libertarian Party.
Uh, well, this is a plan in the works, at least, is again, meet them where they are. And I know one of the things coming up in the fall is the Earl Cup. Are you familiar with that event that
I'm
takes
not.
place? So that's a marijuana competition that's held in Arizona. So we're hoping that we'll be able to secure a table there and get in front of that community. Um, and I think again, it's like we can go both ways. Whether we're at a gun show, at a marijuana event. I mean, both of those things I know very, very historically. That we cover all of those things. So it's mostly making sure that we're in the community and visible so that people know that we're very much here. Because most of the media, when they do talk about us, they talk poorly of us. And in other opportunities where we're actually succeeding, they ignore us completely. That's what they did to Ron Paul back in the when he ran. You'd see hilarious charts of like, well, how are these people polling? Well, this guy's polling first, and the next person's polling third and fourth, and it's like, wait, who was number two? And there's silly graphics like that where they would just not print Ron Paul's name. So we have to be out and tabling to see people, because essentially we're blocked off from the mainstream media apparatus, but we appreciate your media coming and talking to us. And hopefully these types of things will give us more exposure. And I think you probably also understand some of the reason why I'm going and speaking at more city councils, to give us some more awareness into the local community and giving our particular perspective on each one of these different issues that's coming around at the local level. And even though we talk about these being small offices, the local offices, they're the most powerful when it comes to your daily life.
Yep.
So I want to make sure we're not minimizing these offices in particular, even though people get really obsessed with the large state and presidential ones. At the end of the day, gosh, it's this city clerk around the city council around the corner that's going to add some nickel and dime fee on you that, it's like, oh, well, that was on the council 2 months ago and you had no idea about it and they passed it anyway, probably
Yep.
by a 7-0 vote, like they do in Tempe with everything.
On the consent agenda.
Consent calendar. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
every
often. So
every
often.
vote's a 7-0. But we'll go and speak on it anyway, because people do need to know. I don't think they hear our arguments very often either. So,
To
uh,
to jump on that, to jump on that, um, if you and Christy, I know you watched the whole city council meeting, the like 6 hours that it went on. Um, there were people who were jumping in at the last minute, not even realizing what they were talking about, and some of those only spoke because we spoke. There was was it the one girl who was running a business, and she was there because of a different issue, I think, with the parks, and she jumped in on that, and she's like, "Wait, I didn't know that this was going on. This is crazy. Like you're adding another fee. You've already your whole portal is already so complex that I can't regularly get everything done in time that it needs to be. So you're adding another layer of bureaucracy." And so it's definitely the small races that are the most impactful.
Yeah. So Nathan knows this
Sure.
because
Make local
nice.
products matter.
So I need that shirt. So
I'll send you
Nathan
one.
Nathan knows this because he subscribes to State 48 and he's been quoted several times. Hopefully everybody subscribed to State 48 News, but that was the mission of me starting State 48 News, was local politics. I mean, sometimes I get swept up in the, legislature. Never national. I never cover anything national. It's local. So it's school board, it's city council. It's, what is your community doing? Because one, no one covers it. Two, if they do cover it, it's like a little blip. It's like a little nothing burger. And three, like this is what affects our daily lives. And two, school board. I was speaking to Miss Lesko, or she was speaking, and I was listening to her, and she said, the nastiest race, the most competitive race she ever won, and if I'm not mistaken, I think she may have lost, was school board. She said it was so, and from what I've seen, I mean, it gets nasty. I mean, if I had to do it over again, so I don't know if you guys know, but I ran for corporation commission. I was very green, so I was just like, I want to get into politics, and I hadn't been in the state very long, so okay, I can do corporation commission because there's no, thing. And I genuinely love energy policy, and I'm totally against ESG and DEI. Like that is my jam, and that's my hill, and I will just argue you down on those two issues. So I jumped into the race. I didn't know I was stepping into somebody. Nathan, why didn't you tell me what I was stepping into? Like it is the most insidious thing ever. And I just didn't know. And I would have definitely started off like, much smaller. Like give me the smallest bottom, race and just, like the way you said, Nathan, build my way up. But I didn't know. And some people just don't know. And there aren't mentors to tell people. I mean, you try to reach out to people and nobody's really mentoring people. And then when people get out and do it, then, they just get hit by dynamite, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, this has definitely been great. I definitely want to come hang out with you guys at that. What do you guys, the Porcupines and Pints, right?
Wait,
Pints and
Yeah.
pines and
porcupines.
Pints and
porcupines.
porcupines. I will not be coming to the weed thing because that's one of the reasons I left. I don't want to legalize, I don't want to legalize prostitution. I don't want to legalize, but that's a whole hill. That's why I left. Between that and the border and the abortion, yeah, those three, I'm pretty conservative.
I have articles on two of those things, the
Oh,
blind and the border and abortion, and I'll send that to you. And
send
we
them.
can talk and disagree and still live peaceably together. How about
I
that,
I
Christine?
would love to. And send me definitely invites or when you guys do speak at stuff, just shoot me a message, let me know. I think we all need to be doing more of that. I mean, even, myself, I need to show up more often and speak at things as well. So this has been great. Drew,
Thank
final
you.
parting words. Tell us your socials, tell us where we can find the party and anything you want to say in closing.
Oh gosh. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. Drew Heaton or even Drew Heaton, the politician one, which is sort of my more political one. We're at azlp.org. And you can also find my personal website at Heaton, my last name, Heaton, the number 4, Arizona.com. Arizona all spelled out.
Awesome. Eric.
Yeah. So for Maricopa County, the Twitter's LP Maricopa and the website's the same, lpmaricopa.org, where we have our events page of everything upcoming. And you can also sign up for our email newsletter where you get reminders about everything upcoming with the party.
Awesome. Mr. Nathan?
Well, and much the same. The Arizona Libertarian Party has a Twitter account. It's Arizona_LP on Twitter, and then Arizona Libertarian Party on Facebook. And for my own stuff, it's at Nathan Madden 98.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Subscribe.
Thanks,
State
Christine.
48 News, the State 48 News.